Radio News Hour, Joe and Jason on this Tuesday, the 10th day of October. Man, it's Halloween around the corner, Thanksgiving, Christmas, right? The holidays, not a lot of holiday spirit out there. If the people at Walmart are to be believed, for the first time in 10 years, they say the consumer is hitting the wall. Our toll-free number, 800-951-0592. Of course, the physical delivery of wealth insurance, gold and silver. It is what we do. AllAmericanGold.com is the website. And, some interesting things keep popping up. We had, take Pepsi today. We had earnings come out from Pepsi, PepsiCo. They were good. They were, they beat the street. And they talked about, sales and revenue. But then they threw in, oh, by the way, volume. How much stuff is Pepsi selling? And what Pepsi said was, hey, we're selling 6% less stuff this quarter than last quarter, but don't worry, it's okay because we raised prices by 8%, right? This is kind of the new Wall Street strategy. Of course, that only works for a little while, right? You raise prices 8%. Well, if volume falls another 6% next quarter, right, you're probably not going to be able to raise prices another 8%. It just doesn't work that way. Samsung, the chip maker, and, that's been all the rage. They're expecting an 80% decline in business. Jason, again, we haven't seen it in jobs. And, of course, jobs, we talked jobs yesterday. There was a lot of part-time jobs out there. Just not a lot of full-time jobs. We have a record, and I think this is probably going to be true for the entire, all the generations that follow. I just think most people will probably work more than one job in the future because, quite honestly, there just isn't enough full-time work out there.
That's right, and if the economy gets worse, as it looks like it's going to in the months to come, then there's going to be a lot more people needing more part-time jobs. You help people full-time jobs probably getting part-time jobs. So, there's
right, yeah.
The thing is, I think in the future the jobs aren't going to be available. Here's the thing: at least there are jobs available right now. At least that's what the numbers are saying. I think that's going to be a big change in the months coming.
So let me give you, obviously our Arizona office is in Phoenix, right? And I've lived here for decades. Metro Phoenix eviction notices for September. Now, I haven't really seen this on the news very much about evictions, and they've kept it really quiet. But one of the people getting evicted the other day either got killed or killed themselves, right? So all of a sudden, people are talking about evictions. Landlord filed eviction notices for the month of September. 7,809 notices. That is an all-time record high for the month of September. And it's the second highest total ever going back to August of 2005. Remember, that was the housing bubble bursting in 2005. But get this. It only missed that record by 100 evictions. So, Jason, it really looks like things have turned very quickly. They said that the pace in August was 7,693, but they're saying that the increase in rents, which is up by more than 30%, the average judgment renters face is over $3,200. which is double the typical Phoenix apartment rent. I don't know about that. And again, I don't rent an apartment, but anywhere where you're paying $1,500, it's probably, probably not the greatest area, or you're on the outskirts of town, Jason.
Yeah, that sounds right, Joe. That sounds right. So, once again, keep watching what's going on, because day by day, Joe, it just seems this information keeps funneling in, and of course, we got Israel now, so you got geopolitics getting worse. So all this is just pushing us in this direction that we've been warning for months and, quite frankly, years. And this is why you got to get yourself ready financially. There's places you can go to be in a lot better position.
Absolutely. When we talk Israel, right, we're waiting. Is that going to expand? And then I saw this headline on Zero Hedge, and apparently, lo and behold, there is another pipeline that they say has been damaged, most likely by external sources. This is the pipeline from Finland. It goes from Finland to Estonia. This pipeline, it's a natural gas pipeline. They're saying that the Estonian Navy and Finland are now sending divers down, but it appears a natural gas pipeline, miraculously now, the second one now. External forces most likely involved. Patriot Radio News Hour, I know, right? Crazy stuff happening. We'll be back after the break. (800-951-0592). Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour on this Tuesday. A quick look in at the markets. The Dow is up right now. Kind of finished pretty flat yesterday, but the 10-year note tumbling 464 because I guess the Israeli-Middle East thing got people scared, whatever you'd like to believe. A temporary reprieve, but the Dow's up 200, the S&P's up 40, the Nasdaq's up 150, gold's up another $8, 1858. Silver's higher as well. Oil's down, but of course oil was up big yesterday, but oil is down at least early on this morning. And if you're like a lot of people saying, man, I just don't like the setup here. And what is the setup? Well, the setup is pretty simple, right? The central bank has created a boom and bust economy. That's the setup. It's been that way for the last 40-plus years. And we're getting ready for the next bust. That's why you always got to have things like gold and silver put away. It's why you got to have somebody like Joey in your corner. It's why we talk about why refi. Because you get great rates of return, as you know, up to 10.25%. It's fixed. It means it doesn't change. It's actually something you can feel good about, right? Versus, do you really want to invest in Apple? Do you really want to invest in Microsoft and Bill Gates? Do you really? Probably not, right? Do you want to invest in Pepsi and Budweiser and all their woke agendas? Probably not. But the other great part, it's not correlated to Wall Street. So when the next bust comes, it doesn't affect you. It doesn't care about the Fed. It doesn't care about war. And like I said, it's really for the greater good. Check them out, investyrefy.com. That's the word invest, the letter Y, REFY.com. Or just call them at 888-YREFI24. That's 888 Why Refi 24. Another day, more strike news. Real quick, General Motors Canada. Apparently, they're joining the strike. So they've started their strike today. We'll keep you posted. It's the only one, at least, that I saw today. But it's going to be very interesting because this has already gone on a little longer than I was hoping for. And again, the size of what the unions are asking for are enormous. But look at the cost of things. Right? And I know. We're going to get CPI this week. And they're going to tell us some stupid number. Right? 3%, something like that. And then say, oh, well, and then there's the core, and then there's the super core, and none of it actually tracks inflation. It doesn't. Right? It tracks a bunch of people, very smart people, sitting around and deciding, well, if something gets too expensive, they'll just do something else. So therefore, it's not so bad. And we'll fake the numbers, we'll massage the numbers, right? But we won't actually track true inflation because, well, then if we did, what the unions are asking for would probably not seem so outrageous. But again, they don't want you to know that it's actually happening to you. I guess here's one of the people that I like. I like Wolf Richter. You guys have heard me talk about him, his website, Wolf Street. This is a great article. So, his wife got in a car accident. It happens. And he was talking about how the car that they had bought was a 2008. The car that was in the accident was a 2018 Ford Fusion. So not a super expensive car. It had 75,000 miles on it. His wife would drive it to and from work every day. And he talked about how they had bought the car in 2020. So he does what I like to do. Right? I don't buy new cars. Right? But I'll buy. So in 2020, he buys it 2018. He happened to buy it from a rental car company. He bought it with 35,000 miles for $15,000. Well, it was a pretty decent accident, and the adjuster came out and he totaled the car. And the car gets totaled when it's 80% or more to fix it of what the value of the car is. So they've owned it for 3.5 years. They put 40,000 miles on it. So it says she didn't drive it a lot, right? Maybe 12,000 miles a year. They only bought it for $15,000. The insurance company gave them $18,000. So 40,000 more miles, 3.5 years older. They paid them more money than what it was worth. I shouldn't say that. They paid them more because that's how bad inflation is. But then they went to look and try to find a car that would be $18,000. So remember, they spent $15,000 in 2020 buying a lower end car, that the wife takes to and from work. Nothing fancy. They got $18,000, Jason. Unfortunately, in their searches, they couldn't come up with a car for the $18,000. They ended up buying another car for $23,000. So they had to come out of pocket another $5,000. But then he said, and then when we got the insurance on it, then the insurance went way up. As a matter of fact, he says his insurance now is 50% higher than it was in 2020.
Yeah, driving is getting to be a very expensive proposition. I mean, I was talking to one of the listeners, one of the customers, saying that his normal Uber ride that he takes was $30 to $40. Now it's $75. Same trip, same distance, $75 Uber instead of 30 to 40. Well, once again, he doesn't have to pay for the car, but I mean, you have to pay for the car no matter how you get traveling around.
Yeah, and again, hey, at $30, that may be okay. $70, man, that's a hard pill to swallow. Well, look at here. In 2020, he could pay $15,000. Today, he said, and here's the thing, he did something most people won't do. He found a car, one, and it was 100 miles away that he was able to get for $25,000. So in a little over 3 years, the price, his used vehicle car price almost doubled. And then his insurance almost doubled on top of it. So this is a great example of what really has happened. But this week, they'll tell us 3%, Jason.
Yeah, 3%. And then the funny thing is, at least these inflation numbers, as far as I'm concerned, they're going to look really bad at the back end of the year. This number coming up this week is going to be the last what I would consider a good number. From here on out, it's going to get worse and worse. And that reverse repo, all that cash is draining out, which is counteracting all of the sell-off of dollars that the Fed's trying to bleed off their sheets. I don't know how the Fed's going to be able to bleed anything else off their sheets. No one's going to buy dollars. No one's going to buy this stuff. All these dollars are coming home. The Israel war that's going on is just going to make more and more of these countries want to get rid of more and more dollars. I think the whole geopolitical situation is going to try to scare the countries of the world back into the dollar. I think that's the aim. I don't know if they'll be successful. Because you blow everything up over there on the eastern part of the world, then maybe dollars is like the only place to go. The euro's going down, Joe. The yen's worthless. So maybe the best of the worst is the dollar, but it could all go down. Looking like with this inflation, it's all going down.
And then news out of China today, one of their other major real estate holding companies, Country Garden. Doesn't that sound nice?
Yeah. China's
not dumb. A lot of you have this in your holdings somewhere without even knowing it, right? Most people don't even dig around to know what they're holding. But if you saw it, you probably wouldn't even think twice. Country Garden Holdings. Well, they said that they will not be able to make its offshore repayments, including those issued in U.S. dollars. So it looks like China, and this is kind of the problem. Hey, we're going to pay our inshore stuff, right? The people here at home are going to get paid. It's all you foreigners that are not going to get paid. They failed to make a $60 million payment this morning. It warned that it could lead creditors to demand repayments faster. Shares of the company are collapsing. They barely made a payment in September to avoid default on its onshore bonds. Now they've said that they will not be making payments on their offshore bonds. And now, Jason, word out of China is another major stimulus package is coming from China. This is another reason why the Dow kind of was up a little bit today. But the big news here is this means more selling of U.S. dollars by China, period. Especially, not only is Country Garden not making their debt payments in dollars, now China says, hey, we're going to have to issue more stimulus, and the way the Chinese pay for stimulus is by selling U.S. Treasuries.
There you go. Yep, because there's one place you could always spend your dollars, even if if treasuries aren't being sold. You can bring those dollars back here, and if you see the inflation going on in the United States, and you're holding a lot of U.S. dollars, you may want to just start buying U.S. goods and services, because at some point I think the dollar very likely could be something that's not used. It's at some point This is why when you see somebody attacking somebody on the news, this is why it can be very important, because things can change very rapidly. And all that slow change we've been going through, Joe, sure feels like it's getting heated up here in the next weeks and months.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting how all of this is going to work. We've got every major economy in the world, let's just say this, slowing at best. We have record amounts of debt that at the same time, corporate profits have been under pressure. You know, Jason broke it down yesterday. Listen, spending's up double digits by our government. Revenue is down double digits. So spending's up 10%, revenue's down 10%. Well, that means that's 20% more debt, right? Just alone,
yep.
Right? And we're already at $2 trillion a year, and we know now the question is, the only question we really have for 2024 is the debt for that year going to be $3 trillion? I mean, that's really the only question. We know it's going to be north of $2 trillion. The question is, how high is it going to go? And at the same time, you got all these other countries saying, "Hey, we've got to go farther into debt." They all try to save their economies. The big question, wasn't it Jamie Dimon that asked, "Who's going to buy all this debt?" That reverse repo, yeah, it's running out of money fast. We'll be back. 800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Tuesday. Just another update here on this pipeline from Finland. This pipeline originates in Russia. So it goes, of course, Russia and Finland share a border. It goes through Finland and then goes into the sea, over into Estonia and into Eastern Europe. They're saying that it looks like this pipeline, this is another one of these, at least an early report saying an external issue here. The good news is Europe had decent stockpiles of natural gas heading into the winter. Obviously, something like this doesn't help, but again, the timing here, right? It just seems like these war drums, Jason, they just don't stop, right? I mean, they just keep coming here, one after the other, and sooner or later, there's going to be that spark. We just don't know what it's going to be.
Well, I think I'm starting to get more of a picture of this, Joe. I mean, I haven't talked much about it because it's hard to get information, but we have a lot of listeners, a lot of customers ask about, central bank digital currencies. And I finally got some good information out of Nigeria. They've been trying really hard to make this thing stick there. And from what I can understand, the last few weeks, Joe, quite a bit of failure. They're reissuing currency after they finally pulled it there the last few months. Now, America is different than Nigeria, so it doesn't mean it's going to fail here, but it failed in Nigeria. First of all, they let people have the option of using currency or digital currencies, but they also had Bitcoin on the side. But the problem for Nigeria wasn't really the digital currencies going against each other versus Bitcoin versus Nigeria digital currency. The problem was they wanted to use cash. They just wanted to use cash, and they slowly but surely over the last year just was getting rid of it. Joe, from what I understand, the Nigerians were burning down banks here in the last few weeks. I mean, literally, they were protesting by the tens of thousands in the streets against this thing. And the reason I bring this up is not because, hey, we have a chance to maybe not have digital currencies. The reason I bring it up is it's kind of interesting how suddenly a war breaks out in Israel when a digital currency experiment fails Nigeria. Because if this market's going to crash like I think it's going to crash in a major way, the digital currency could have been a hero to rescue the system, But now it seems like, well, they're going to have to go to the old playbook, Joe. War here, war there, war everywhere, right? And then blame the war on what's getting ready to happen financially. It looks like they're just going to use the old playbook because the digital currency is not ready.
Well, and again, yeah, and I think, for Nigeria, right, this is something where there's not a lot of faith necessarily in the Nigerian currency to begin with. So, people were not happy with the fact that that they were trying to force them to use their own currency. Because Nigeria, they use a lot of dollars there. That's kind of the currency of choice when it comes to those things. But I think you're right. I think, it is the oldest playbook in the world, isn't it? War. It's the best way to hide things. People have such a wrong perception of history. People think the central bank saved the United States from the Great Depression. It's not what happened. Matter of fact, it was the central bank that caused it. Lack of oversight of the financial institutions, and of course, you read it in the textbooks. The Roaring '20s. What that really was really bad lending standards by banks. Banks behaving badly, and it all blew up. Now, people want to give them credit for ending it. They fixed it. Of course, they took the gold away, and that's how they fixed it. Because this is what they've always wanted, a debt money system. What does that mean? Well, we can issue more money whenever we feel the need. Going into debt, look at it this way. Having credit card debt's okay. That's what they said. Carrying a balance on our credit card is okay. That's what the central banks really want. And, of course, the central bank gets to earn interest on debt that they hold that they didn't even buy, right? They just created money out of thin air. Great trick. But what people don't realize, Jason, is we never got out of the Great Depression. It just didn't happen. Matter of fact, by 1937, we were back into another depression. And it didn't end until World War II started, in earnest. The only reason we got out of it was because of war. And these central bankers, they know this. They know this. I believe today that if World War II would not have happened, my gut tells me we probably would have went back. Congress would have voted out these central bankers because it just really was an experiment that didn't work until war. And then, of course, we know, right? What did we get? Well, the rest of the world had to buy everything in dollars. That was how it worked. That's what we got for winning World War II. All commodities, oil, wheat, soybean, all got priced in dollars. And they sold our debt. Right? Countries all said, okay, right? Because let's face it, all the major economies of the world at the time were flattened, right? All of Europe was flat. Japan was flat, right? Russia was flat. China wasn't even really a big economy in the world. India, same thing, right? All the major economies, with the exception of the United States, was flattened. And now even that system's gone now. Think about our credit card now. $33.5 trillion and skyrocketing. The fact that other nations now are doing all of these different things. And I think, Jason, you're right. War would be a great way to bring in a digital currency, wouldn't it? Well, gosh, look at what happened. We had all this devastation and war, and we just need to go to this digital system now because it'll just be better. Well, let me tell you, your bank accounts, that money in the bank, that's what they go after. Your stock accounts, that'll get taken care of no matter what. It'll get crushed anyway. Having gold and silver, that's how you protect yourself. We'll be back after the break. (800) 9510592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour. 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles. Another great opportunity here. $230. $230 on the golden dimes. It's a great way, especially when you're thinking about digital currencies, because this is a way for you to have small increments of gold to barter with, to do things with, to get things that you need. And then silver rounds, assorted rounds. Our choice of silver rounds, $510 a roll for 20 ounces of silver. 800-951-0592. 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles at $230. Rolls of silver rounds at $510. Gold's up 9. 1859 at the highs of the day here. But let me just tell you, you got to be sharp here, because Jason may be on to something. The French Central Bank, in a press release on October 3rd, the deputy government of the French Central Bank, that I'm quoting here, the catalyst for improving cross-border payments by enabling the build-up of a new international monetary system centered around the central bank digital currency. They said that the first is the development of the common standards between wholesale central bank digital currencies and the legacy systems, right? We're already doing that, right? Our wholesale central bank digital currency is up and running. Matter of fact, you small business owners, all of you have been getting major updates to your credit card system. Some of you know it, some of you may not, but it's happened all because of this. I know, at least for me, on top of the update, I also got a letter saying, hey, your credit card fees are going up. Right? Of course they are. The second, promoted by the IMF and the Bank of International Settlements, the development of a regional or a global central bank digital currency platform. So, Jason, you've kind of hinted at the Bank of International Settlements maybe being where they'll do the big cross, the exchange rates, things of that nature, running it through whether, and of course the Bank of France is saying, hey, we don't care if it's the IMF or the Bank of International Settlements, but it should be one of these global groups.
Yeah, they're going to have an exchange from country to country, because I think the end goal for digital currency is to have a world currency. But as you can see with Israel, that's not really going to be popular for Israel to be spending the same money that Iran is spending. So it will be the same money, because digits can be anything, right? You can name anything the way you want to name it. We all know that you've got all these different stocks you can buy on the stock exchange, but they're all owned by three big companies, essentially. It's all BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, right? So I think when there is an international digital currency, Joe, I think you'll have your digital yuan, your digital dollar, and your digital pound. I think that'll all exist, and it'll all trade simultaneously with each other. It's all the same thing. It's all digital money. It'll just look like it's something different. And What I'm thinking with Nigeria, Joe, is that I believe that they're just not ready. I think they knew they weren't ready. I think they were really been trying to do this. I mean, January of 2009, Bitcoin pops up out of nowhere. The 08 housing crash scared the financial big feet, the big hands, the big guys of the world, all those big banks, all those Rockefeller and Rothschild families. There's like, oh well, this isn't looking too good. And I think digital currency has been it. I played the Aaron Russo piece on the Half Empty Cup of Joe about how this has been in the works since before 2011, since before 9/11. And so I think it's just here in 2023. I think it's just not ready. And because it's not ready, they got to have something to cover their backsides with this big monetary crash that's going to happen. I think they still want the digital currency to be the savior, Joe, but I think war is going to be where they're going to go first, and digital currencies are going to have to be behind this. I think America's ready for digital currencies. I think really industrialized nations are, but as big of a country as Nigeria is, they're just still more second world or third world than a first world country, Joe.
Yeah, I agreed. And maybe the other thing is, maybe too much competition.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
Do we need to ban things like cash and Bitcoin? I don't know. We'll see. Now, they made one other very, I think, interesting statement in this release. Now, he said that this was just his opinion. Okay, this is the deputy head of the Central Bank of France. Tokenized central bank money availability and tokenized assets are allies rather than competitors. And why I found that interesting is you can really correlate that to, anybody who doesn't do this is not an ally, right? Kind of letting the rest of the world know, hey, you're going to do this whether you like it or not. Patriot Radio News Hour, final segment coming up. (800-951-0592). Final segment here on this Tuesday. Another great special here. Again, I emphasize this pullback here. You need to add bond yields falling. I think that's going to be here for a little while after this huge run up. It's not going to last, but take advantage of it here. We've got the 10th ounce American Gold Eagle. I mean, gold, now it's not, but at one point was down over $100 from where it was, 10 trading days ago. Now it's only down about, $80, $70. Gold's up 11 now, 1861. But 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles. These are the cheapest they've been in a while here. I mean, I remember we were running them on sale, buy 50 or more, maybe at $240, $235, $245. Here, I'm putting no limit. You buy one, you can buy 10, you can buy 100, you can buy 500 if you want. 1/10 ounce American Gold Eagles at $230. And then rolls of silver rounds at $510. Silver's up 10 cents now, back above $22. 800-951-0592. And just again, whether it's war drums, another pipeline magically blows up. We've got central banks talking about the digital currency, the tokenization of assets, right? Hey, a central bank digital currency and the tokenization of assets are going to be our allies. That's really all you need to know. And Jason, none of this comes without a reset. And when a reset happens, debt's got to get paid. Yep. Right? Because that's how it works. Debt's got to get paid. And remember what the rules are. People want to pretend that it's not going to happen. Yes, I know Janet Yellen gave the billionaires at Silicon Valley a pass. You know why? Because they were billionaires. guys like Peter Thiel. Roku had $13 billion in it. By the way, I haven't shared this story yet, but I need to. I now have somebody that is risen to let's just say a senior position in a company. I won't tell you the company's name, but they do risk management for the banks, and their business is booming because the banks obviously sucked at it. They got called in to Silicon Valley right at the end. And he was telling me how bad it was. And he was telling me how incredible, companies like Roku, Peter Thiel, who's a billionaire investor, how these people had billions of dollars sitting in these bank accounts. And he now, he's been telling me about all these other banks, Jason, and it's as bad as I thought. He goes, listen, they're not Silicon Valley banks yet. But anybody having money in these banks, they better be worried, because unfortunately, he's saying to me the situation is getting worse because interest rates keep rising and depositors keep leaving. And a lot of it now is, hey, those customers starting to run out of money. Their bank balances keep falling every month. I hope you're prepared. Get that gold and silver put away. 800-951-0592. Jason and I, we're coming right back. And we got Virginia Farmer, so you don't want to miss that. She keeps us up to date on what's going on with 5G and smart meters and